Welcome to the Social Work Race, guys. Thanks for joining us. This is the platform where we come to learn as frontline workers, where our voices. We come to learn from other professionals. And I'm going to run straight into this one. And I'm going to let someone who I met on LinkedIn, I was going to say Instagram, but it's LinkedIn, who caught up with the platform. And I appreciate that she's joining because she's got a lot to bring. Let me introduce, I'm going to allow Maz to introduce herself and what she's about, and then we're going to get straight into this self-care topic. Go ahead.
Okay. Yes. Hello, everyone. I am Maz Alexander. And yes, I wear many hats. I am a social worker, an adult mental health social worker, but I'm also a mental wellbeing coach. And I'm a mother, and I'm multi-passionate. I offer bereavement support for families that are grieving. I'm also a stand-up comedian. I do many things. Thank you.
I didn't know that one. I didn't know that one.
Yeah, full of surprises.
You are. You should put magician there as well, because you're going to pull something else out of the hat, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, appreciate it. So yeah, listen, it is something that I've decided that I'm really going to put a lot of promotion into social work. We need more social workers. We need good social workers. We need informed social workers. What we're not going to do today, though, is talk about our clients. Why? Because it's us that needs the support and help as well. Right. Yes. And so I thank Maz for coming on. We had a bit of a conversation earlier on because I wanted to let social workers know that they have to look after themselves. And this is something I've been honest with myself about. Look after themselves whilst they're doing social work, or anyone else on the front line. Maz, I want to ask you straight, why is this such a big topic for you?
Yeah, well, apart from the fact I've been working in mental health for at least 10 years, but I've been a social worker across various sectors. And what I saw was, we're great, aren't we? We're great at looking after other people. And that's what we do for our clients. It's what we do for our families. Yeah. But I've seen lots of my colleagues, they're off, they're sick, they're stressed. And it just seems like resources for us are quite limited. Yeah, you've got HR, you could go to occupational health, you can do all those things, but the support, the real support is lacking from what I've seen.
Absolutely. I would admit, I think that generally speaking, and only for maybe more time than I should boast, I can be very high functioning, stressed. And then I start to see the effects on my mind. What I decided to do was I decided to go for walks more often, because I'm a walker. I have a nice car, but I prefer to walk than drive because of the impact of the relief that I have on my mind. And I noticed that with my mind, if my mind is relieved, then my body's relieved, because they're one. What are you finding then with frontline workers, social workers in particular, when it comes to how they are managing their self-care?
Well, I'll be honest with you, it's on a case-by-case basis, but generally they're not. It's worth just saying from the outset that we know when it comes to mental health, at least 1 in 4 of us will experience a mental health problem throughout our lifetimes. And we also know, and the figure's likely to be higher, Curtis, to be honest, but
yeah, that's right.
1 in 6 workers, 1 in 6 frontline workers experiences conditions such as stress, anxiety, and what have you. So, and they're off work, that's costing, what is it, something like over 17.9 million days are lost each year because of mental health challenges that workers face. And that has massive, apart from the financial implications, and it's serious, because it really is about your health. It's it's
interesting you say that. I did read a long time ago that overworking is the biggest cause of staff absence. And it doesn't seem to...
What does overworking cause?
Say again?
Yeah. What does overworking by itself I'm not sure, but what are the implications of overworking? What does that cause?
Mm.
You know,
This is it. And then this would lead us to knowing that then if this is the case, a lot of frontline workers, social workers, those in social care, even in the NHS, that means that there's suffering in silence, which then compounds the whole mental health situation.
Yeah, definitely. There is a notion. I mean, we in our economy, we're taught to keep on pushing through, keep on working, because we've got to be productive. We've got to work. We can't be off, because our clients depend on us, other people. And it's any frontline worker, nurses, OTs, it's even people, anyone in the caring professions. Some of my clients, Curtis, are ministers, they're religious, they're reverends, because they're giving all the time and they're just depleted. So it's important, because I think we don't recognize. So for example, Curtis, if I say to you, what do you think of when I say the term mental health? What comes to mind?
Oh man,
mental health.
You're going to get stereotypes now. Okay.
Be honest. What comes to your mind first of all?
I think of people who cannot cope, people who are nervous breakdowns. I think of disability. Yeah, those three things come up to my mind straight away.
Yeah, that's very honest, because a lot of people would probably share those thoughts, and that's why I run sessions on mental health awareness. We just had Mental Health Awareness Month, and those answers that you've given are very similar to what a lot of people say, and that tells me that there's still, even though we're talking about it more, we've got people like Prince Harry, and it's trendy to talk about it, but we've got much more work to do.
Yeah.
So just from the outset, I would say mental health. We all have mental health, by the way, in the same way we all have physical health, because we never say to someone down the road, oh, do you know what, Curtis? Bill down the road, he's got physical health, he's got physical health. We just don't say that, because health is health, and sometimes we're sick and sometimes we're not, and it fluctuates. That's why, it never stays the same, by the way. At different times in our life, it fluctuates. So we have to be mindful of that. So therefore, it applies to all of us. And for the purposes of today, when I say mental health, I'm just talking about the way we think, how we feel, how we act. We're all human, and it applies to us all. So, yeah.
So I want you to address this, and you can address me personally if you want, or you can just address it as a scenario. But I want listeners to leave here with the realistic knowledge, ability, tools to cope better, all right? So in social work, I work in children's services, yeah?
Right.
There are too many there is too much, we are carrying caseloads heavier than we should. And to be fair, at times more than what we can effectively manage. The thing is though, these are humans. We get to know them, we work with them, and we become a part of their lives sometimes. How then am I supposed to balance my workload, which needs to be managed, and maintain my own mental health? How is that possible? How do you strike that balance with us? Because you're a coach, you're a well-being coach. How would you suggest that I do that? That's a tough question.
It is, because it looks different for everyone. So I don't work in children's services, and I know my limitations. Yep. But for you, what it comes down to, and yeah, you're right, because we have a duty of care, and the job's got to get done regardless. But you see, I know, Coach, you do your job, but you work. It's not just 9 to 5. You'll work beyond the hours, and you could work from now till midnight every day for the next 40 years. Your work will never be done. Never. So there will come a time where we have to prioritize what's important to us, and it comes down to your values. It comes down to, because anytime that we're doing something that's not aligned with what, who we really are. So for example, if you're a lawyer and you value honesty, you can't really represent someone who, you know the person just robbed the bank. So you can't really, if you do have to stand up in court and say, no, he's innocent, you're going to feel that cognitive dissonance, aren't you? And it's going to make you feel like rubbish, and it's going to affect your performance and all of that. And sometimes we do compromise, don't we? We're asked to do things that may seem unethical to us in social, and we're asked to make decisions, and that has a toll on us. But going back to what you were saying, I think it comes down to, and this is all part of self-care, it's about our boundaries. Because the thing is, Curtis, often when I ask people what their boundaries are, they say, oh yeah, I've got boundaries, but they don't. Because often we don't know when our boundaries have been violated until someone violates them, and we think, oh, I don't like the way that person made me feel, or the way they talk to me. I appreciate that. So that's why we need to be sort of prepared. Like, we're going into battle. You wouldn't go into battle without any weapons or what have you. So if you know what you can, what your limitations are, what's acceptable to you and what's not. And also it's good for our clients, because if we have our boundaries, then we will also be able to show them and lead by example. So when your boss is coming, like, simple things like, I always say to my line manager, what are you, what do you want me to do first? You've given me all these tasks, which one first? What has to take priority? Those kind of things. It's just knowing, do you know what it looks like, Curtis, when you've had enough, when you're at your limits? How does it look?
I feel it, actually. So what it looks like is what I feel. If that answers the question. So I feel like I'm losing control. I feel like I'm being sucked backwards. I feel like I feel like failure is imminent. So then one would then operate under fear as opposed to more sanity and confidence, and it affects how you function. It affects how you write. It affects how you communicate. I have ways of, I have an ethos of managing all of this, by the way. But I do feel it. And the thing is that sometimes I will chase the stats or chase the work, and knowing that there is an imminent day of crashing. And so I'm thinking, how far can I push it before I crash? So I kind of play the game a little bit, because that's what the job really does pull you into do.
Yeah. And that's well, it's not fine, but you'll probably be able to do that another 5 years, 10 years from now. But there'll come a time where you've reached your living, just like, the stress bucket analogy. How full is your stress bucket? How much can you pile in there? And do you have a valve to release the stress? Because if you don't, what's going to happen to you? And actually, let me use the boiling frog analogy. I don't know if you heard that one, Curtis. Yeah, so, if you put a frog in the boiling water, it's going to jump out because it's too hot. But if you put the frog in the in the water that's just warm, and you gradually turn up the temperature, the frog adjusts its body temperature and it boils to death. What I'm saying, Curtis, is you don't want to be like that frog, because you don't want to keep adjusting and compromising and adjusting, because it's detrimental to your health. We need to know when to jump out the pot, because there is no health without wealth. That was a government strategy even before the pandemic, because actually, if you don't have your mental health, you can't function in any other aspect of your life. So and that's what I saw, Curtis. I saw people, colleagues, giving 20 years of service to the NHS and local authority, and then when the organizations that stress them and cause them to be off, they'll be like, well, we didn't tell you, we just relied on your goodwill, we didn't do that to you. And I'm thinking, well, yes, you did. So yeah, and if you notice, Curtis, the government agenda when it comes to health and well-being is very much placed on us, because obviously we're having an aging population. There are lots of people with disabilities. Funding is cut, they can't afford. So now the onus is on you. You better look after yourself, because they're not doing it. And off the record, I tell my clients, especially the older ones who may be starting to get dementia and what have you, I said, listen, make sure you protect your assets, because they'll come for your house. Even you don't have to be old, you could be young. If you have an accident, they're coming for your house. We know that in local authorities, if you have above the threshold of savings, it will be taken from you. Yeah. So you really do have to look after yourself. It's essential.
You have to be proactive and protect yourself. And one of the things I do is I will say something. And interestingly, I mean, I had a couple of podcasts back. I had a self-care session, and it was about being honest. I was in particular, I made a decision to be honest about me, and I had a live kind of coaching session, which was quite intense. And it meant, I mean, one of the things I do is I'll say to my manager or any manager, this is a lot. I don't think everybody has that voice yet. Some people do, some people don't. Not everybody's assertive. I will speak to my manager about what I have in my hand. Can I hold it? I can't. Not properly. I can do it all, but it's going to be done very badly, or I need a break. I will say it. But I recognize also that I will sometimes carry too much and then cry about it, or at times, depending, I will say, no, this is a lot. And I would encourage people to speak up if they're having these challenges.
Yeah, no, you're right. Speaking up, and that peer support is essential, but speaking up. But I'm also reminded, because I'm a locum now anyway, and I've worked across various boroughs and up and down the country. But there are some places where there is a culture where that's not encouraged. You cannot speak about it. You just have to shut up and put up. And that can make you feel quite isolated and add to the stress. So I really feel for some of my clients, some of my colleagues that are in that place right now. Right. And just based on what you said, Curtis, I'm thinking about if we continue like that, because I get what you're saying, because the long hours, we give and take, but if that's prolonged, there is a recipe for burnout, which is also an occupational hazard that we face. When we think about the cost of caring, even things like compassion fatigue, you working with families and what have you, you're going to see some things, some traumatic things, and hear some things, and you're human, and that is going to have an impact. Me, similarly, working in the adult mental health field, when somebody ends their life through suicide, that affects me. It's not the kind of thing I can just switch off and say, oh, well, that's another day. It's not nice when you're up in the coroner's office. It's not nice when you have to justify and they're blaming you, or it feels that way. This is it. Because something's happened. Somebody's jumped in the Thames. Somebody's done something or attacked somebody, or there's a homicide. Because you know what it's like, Chris. The press we get in the newspaper as social workers, it's never the doctor, the policeman, and all the professionals that were involved. It's the social worker, from Victoria Climbier to Baby P and all the others. It's the social worker. So we have to kind of practice defensively all the time. And that's a lot of pressure. It's a lot of pressure.
Yeah, that's right. There's so much I want to cover, and we're going to keep it real concise. Statistically, what else are we looking at for us? Because I really want people to be aware these statistics are representative of everybody. It's just where we fall in those numbers. And what other statistics would you share with us to wake us up as to where we're at with our mental health?
Oh, well, there are so many, but I think one in 6 workers experiencing mental health challenges is quite high. And even going back to the 1 in 4 of the population, that's quite high. And so sometimes I don't think people respond to numbers and they're like, oh, well, they're looking around thinking, oh, those are the other people. This is the mindset that we have. Oh, that's other people. When I sometimes do these training sessions and various other things, people say, oh yes, it's great what you're doing for those people. We need to help those people, because they perceive that mental health means that someone's running around naked in the street or talking to themselves. It's like, no, it's you, it's me. What are you? And because you don't realize, how can you protect yourself if you don't realize that you are impacted? Now, as I stated earlier, burnout, compassion fatigue, All these things are occupational hazards. You cannot work in the industry and not be affected and infected too in certain ways by the toxic culture. But for example, people who experience burnout tend to be people, and sorry if this is you, it was me one time, because I experienced it. They don't tend to delegate. They work longer hours, don't know how to say no, or they bottle up their feelings.
Yep.
They procrastinate, and I do this, procrastinate, they avoid, or some of us are just perfectionists. We as social workers naturally take on social justice issues, but the fact that we don't talk about it, and that is a recipe for burnout. So that when you're off sick and you wonder why, there's warning signs all along. Okay, let me tell you that you wouldn't drive your car, Curtis, would you, without putting fuel in the car, would you?
Servicing it, you know.
Yeah, you take it for your annual MOT, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because you don't want no trouble. You want to be able to drive, and we need to do a similar thing with our minds. We need an overhaul. And yeah, we've got family and friends and peers, but sometimes we need a bit more, because actually it might not be fair to burden them with all of that. Wow. Because because family and friends, they're not our therapists, they're not our coaches, they're not designed, even if they're in the profession, to carry that weight. And peer support is great and all of those things, but when you're dealing with trauma and things like that, you might just need a bit more. So you know your limits. Just be aware. It's all about self-awareness, you know.
Do you know what?
For social workers, we're just not.
Do you know what? I'm so glad you're saying it. And that's why I created this platform for social workers to voice up. And if we're just talking, great. However, I'm glad you reached out, because if I'm struggling in my job, if I'm finding it emotionally or mentally stressful and I don't see a way of changing that, my question is, can you help me, Maz? What do you do? And I know that you introduced yourself at first, but I would like you to just tell me a little bit more about what you do and who you're working with, because I want, again, the listeners to know, this is so serious. I have to reiterate it. Where do they go when it's too much? Can I come to you? Is that what you do?
Yes, come, everyone come. Yeah, you know what? It's because when I was going through that burnout, I worked, as I said, in a few, and it's not an understatement to say that they were toxic environments. And when I thought that I was going crazy, Curtis, because I'm going to HR, and you know, you have certain people that are protected. They may be incompetent in their role, but they're protected. They've been in the game for a while, and you can't touch them. You can't say nothing about them, even though they're. So, listen, some of the people I work for, I'm thinking, like sociopaths, and I'm thinking, what? How can you get into this caring profession and you're like this? But anyway, I digress. So there are those people that will shock you, and I didn't have anyone to talk to, and everyone knew. My peers were like, "Oh yeah, they're just like that. You just have to, you just don't say nothing," and that really stressed me, and it affected my sleep. And and I knew that I had to get out. I knew that I had to get out, and that's I had planned my exit strategy, and that's what I did. But in answer to your question, Curtis, I got into coaching. I love coaching. It actually complements the profession, because yes, we tackle issues of social injustice and all of that, but you know, sometimes we're very prescriptive, aren't we, as social workers, to our clients? But what coaching does is you are the expert in your life. It's not me telling you, Curtis, you must do X, Y, and Z. You actually already have the answers within you. It's just that you haven't had time to think and process, because you're going left, right, and you're on autopilot. When was the last time, Curtis, someone asked you, Curtis, what do you really want? What do you really want out of life, and what are your goals? Yeah. Did you have time to reflect on that? You know? So it's just providing. Sorry, go on.
No, I'm saying it's a big question.
Yeah. Well, I know nobody asked me for a review until I got coached, and I was like, wow. So then I went on to train, and I was like, yeah, that's amazing. This is what people need. In fact, everybody needs a coach. I've got a business coach. I've had therapists, and it's just because we're carrying stuff we don't even know about. Apart from the fact, yes, I'm a woman, Black woman, all of these things. And not just because of that, there's generational traumas, there's all kinds of things that dictate the way. And we have to unlearn some of those destructive mindsets that we've adopted that actually hinder us and keep us. Because, you know, just like CPD, isn't it? We have to renew our registration every year. We have to evidence that. Why don't we do that, not just professionally, but personally? We need to work on ourselves. You don't just stop learning at the point you finish your university. So what I'm saying, Curtis, in a roundabout way, we have to invest in ourselves, because actually what you think about yourself is key. What you think about yourself, because it doesn't matter what anyone else thinks about you. If you feel, you know, a certain way inside, that will be reflected in the way you interact. We're good at providing for our children, aren't we? And we let everyone have this, and, you know, but we don't give ourselves the best. And why is that? And that's the kind of conversations I have with my clients. So yeah, people can come in a non-judgmental environment and talk about all these kind of issues. And for the ladies, it's the kind of things that they seem to get is imposter syndrome, people who are procrastinators, people who are just burnt out, various people who are having issues within the workplace. And yeah, you can come, because what I found, I couldn't go to HR because they're connected. Sometimes you need someone neutral who
I know that.
It's true. So yeah, that's why having, it could be a coach, it could be a mentor. If you've got a good person who's detached from your workplace, speak to them. But the problem is that we hear this all the time, and it's preached all the time, but we don't do it. And I must admit, Curtis, I didn't do it a few years ago because I felt ashamed. I felt that, how can I, as a professional, go and talk to somebody? I'm supposed to have it all together. I'm dealing with vulnerable adults. I cannot be vulnerable. There's not the space. They'll think I'm incompetent. Wow. But the more people I speak to, the more similarities and patterns I see. And I see the trajectory that they're on, that if you don't break that thing, you're going to end up like your clients. And we don't want that. So yeah.
That is powerful. You know what it is that we just clicking something off the screen here. It's so helpful when people like yourself are just honest about where you're coming from and what you're helping people. You're helping people try to avoid the same mistakes you have. And so you're coaching people out of burnout. So we can be social workers, we can do our jobs, but we need support. We need someone like yourself. And I'm trying to pull them all together, because the big thing for me is self-care in social work. I'm not gonna just have people on there complaining about social work. Let's talk about how we can be better at what we do. I would like to ask you if you have any tips for us.
Yeah, there's a few, but I'll keep it.
Let's go for three. Let's go for three.
Okay,
I know you're so armed and ready, you know.
Yes. Oh, there's loads. I think that authenticity is one of my values, and it's, yeah, I was going to say accept yourself where you are on the journey, but before you can accept, you need to acknowledge what you're feeling. So earlier you mentioned, Curtis, about you notice certain things. Actually, you will feel it in your body before your mind tells you. Wow. So, and that's a clear indication, by the way, that your boundaries have been crossed. You know, sometimes you could be around a certain person or environment, and your heart sinks, or it's that feeling where you tense shoulders, jaw tense up, whatever. Your body's giving you signals. It's telling you, I don't like this. There's something that makes me feel. Be curious. Ask yourself questions. Why is that? What's going on here? Don't ignore it, because like when you do that, it's like a beach ball. You know, you try and press it down, it pops up again. Yeah, so, and that will happen throughout your career, throughout your life, until you address the thing that it is. So yeah, please acknowledge what it looks like for you. It's different for me. I know for me, when I've had enough, I get irritable, more so than usual. Irritable, I stop sleeping, I get anxious, you know, and that, you know, and it's just all of that stuff. So I know that I need to take a break when those things are happening. So please acknowledge what's going on. And also, I'm a mental health first aider. I forgot to say that, and that's helpful for just because sometimes we don't know.
You're a what? Sorry.
mental health first aider, which basically you could go and get trained in it. It's helpful to recognize the signs and symptoms of mental health challenges that people face within the workplace, so that you can then support. You're not treating them, you can signpost them, you can advise and get them help. So if a colleague, it's really subtle things, Curtis. So for example, it's hard for you to be there, but if your colleague's been off for a while, or there's certain signs and things that they may do that are, but because we're busy in our own world, we might not recognize. And meanwhile, they're breaking down or what have you. So if you don't know what's going on for that person, you can't really support them. And that's why frontline managers, as well as others, have to be looking after their own health as well as the well-being of their staff. So what I'm trying to say is, when someone asks you, for example, how are you, Curtis? Be authentic, tell them how you're really doing. And we need to be the kind of people that are creating an environment where they don't feel that they have to, sometimes people say, Maz, how are you doing? And they're down the road. I'm thinking, why did you ask me? You're not interested. It's just something that we say. Is that, like saying to the neighbors, oh, you must pop round. Yes, well, and you don't really mean it. So yeah, let's be genuine in our interactions with others. And the other thing, sorry, by the way, just to add on to that, is the reason that people don't, the number one reason is because of stigma. That tells me stigma is alive and well, especially within certain communities. I see within mental health, people get told, don't go and talk to that doctor, don't take medication, don't do this, all things that are detrimental and delay a person's recovery. So so that's that. What's that? 2, 3. I was going to say self-care, by the way, is an all-encompassing term, but I'm not talking, because people often think, oh, yeah, I'm going to go out for champagne and lobster. That's nice. You can do that. Those are all the external things. Get your hair done, get the nails done. Yeah, great. But it's not self-care as such. Self-care actually can be quite messy. It can be you letting go of toxic environments, of people. Some of those people might be your family members, because every time you get round Uncle Bill, he's just putting you down. So you're never any good. You think you're high and mighty because you're a social worker. Well, why don't you be like the rest of them? It might be just limiting your time with negative influences. It might be going to therapy because of those things that you can't get over when you were a child. And it's those kind of things that are often the hardest to do, that we don't want to do, and we say, oh, that's really what self-care is about. But yeah, you can do all the other things.
Is that something that you kind of address and deal with as well?
Yes. Do we get to the core? It's not no fluffy. Let's have although like a prosecco and no, we have to get to the root, because like I said, if you don't, the thing will just manifest somewhere else and keep cropping up, and then
there's no escape.
And the
thing is, we're picking up other people's,
right,
which is what we're paid to do. We're happy to do it, but we're picking it up. We have to recognize we're picking it up. How can we do it? And I'll tell you what, we've got 3 minutes left, right?
Quick.
You are loading us up, and I'm like, Maz, there has to be a part 2. What are you saying?
Yeah, happy to do that. It's a big topic, but I want people to know, listen, don't suffer in silence. And just finally, listen, life has to have meaning. Please engage. We tell our clients this all the time, but you need to engage in meaningful activities. So whatever it is, so like I said, I do comedy. That's my therapy. When I go on the stage and talk about my life, my dating life, all of that, and people are laughing at my life, and they're like, oh, that's hilarious. I said, no, it's the truth. It's my life. So whatever you do, whether it's you like to sing, you like to run, cook, whatever it is, please find something that gives you meaning. And even if you spend half an hour each week, please do it, because otherwise, what's the point? And make sure it aligns with your values. There's so many other tips, but what I would recommend is I'm offering, so for the first 10 of your viewers or whatever, I can provide a free consultation. Just chat. You could just chat with me and see if we're a good fit and see how I can help you. That's it.
That's amazing. Where can we find you, please?
Yeah, I'm going to give you you can go to my website. You can find me on Maz Alexander on LinkedIn. And I'm going to give you the link to my consultation booking, and feel free, you can book on that. and just have a chat and see how we can.
I'm going to put the link in the description, and I'm guessing, I mean, we feel the fire. We want you back on. I do anyway. In fact, I'm going to demand it, to be honest with you, to say you have to be back, you know, and maybe, I don't know if you ever give us a free comedy show as well, but actually, you know, but I really appreciate it. It was fire. It was, it's hot stuff. And I think you've woken us up. Let's do this. So guys, look, I want to thank you, Maz, for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, of course, absolutely. And please, guys, share and subscribe while you're helping someone. This isn't just about sharing and subscribing because you think you've heard something nice. This is actually helping someone in need. So if you are a frontline worker in any capacity or in life, social workers, definitely please hook yourselves up for a free consultation. The first 10 will get it for free. Get a consultation for free. Let me be clear before I undersell you. And I appreciate your time, guys. Thank you so much. You will hear from me soon because I've got some topics to cover. Maz, again, thank you so much.
Thank you.
We'll see you guys soon. Take care.